So would you please join me in prayer? Almighty God and everlasting Father, as you've gathered us here today, and we give you thanks that you brought each of us here safely in the wintry weather, and ask that you would be with the rest of those that are going to join us for church this morning, that you would keep everyone on the roads safe today and bring them back home as well safely. As for now, we give you thanks as well for this opportunity to join in fellowship and some more for each other, to discuss the different, your work throughout different parts of the world and throughout our lives. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. All right. So last week, when we got together, Chris and I spoke about what we are going to be doing in the Dominican Republic. We gave you a little bit of a background as well as to how we got to this point and where we are. And so I wanted to continue that conversation. Last week I had a bunch of pictures. This week I didn't bring those. I guess I could show you the same pictures again.
We weren't here last week.
So, we can run through them again. Yeah. But really what I wanted to do was just talk a little bit more about some of the ministry and family life and that sort of things that we're expecting. What was that?
I was thanking my mom over
This is
here.
why she doesn't come to Bible study.
Teachers are always the worst.
Yeah.
Right, Miss Ruby? She's taught with me, she understands.
So, anyway, I know that you all had some questions, and there's some things that we didn't quite talk about yet, and so I just wanted to answer some questions so that you guys know what we know.
And even if they weren't here and they have questions about it, you can say it again.
Yeah, we can say it again. Do you guys want me to get the pictures?
Yeah.
I'll bring it on my computer and I can show some pictures.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
hold on just a moment. Let me grab my computer and we'll get that hooked up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Actually, it was
last night. This is all, they're all grown out and they're all my. Been slacking lately.
All right. Let me find here. I'm going to find two things for you. I'm also going to look at the, if we have a minute, we'll look at the Facebook page for some of this stuff too, just so you guys can maybe see some of these things that are going on.
Show us how much snow they're going to have.
How much snow they're going to have? That's a good question.
We're not packing that here.
There has never been a recorded instance of snow on the island. So, And the island here, well, let me show
I
you.
guess you're gonna
Again.
enjoy that.
Yeah, I like the snow, so I'm gonna miss this.
Ryan doesn't.
I also don't have a commute, so I don't have to drive it.
I know.
Unless I have to. And so here's a picture of where the island is. Right there, the island's called Hispaniola. And it's shared by Haiti on the western third, and in the Dominican Republic, 2/3 on the east. It is the second largest island in the Caribbean after Cuba. And it has, Haiti has one of the worst economies and standards of living in the world. The Dominican Republic is one of the best in the Caribbean. So you have an almost like opposite extremes when it comes to that. So a lot of times when we've told people we're going to the Dominican Republic, they're thinking Haiti. And that's not what it's like.
But it is, I don't know if I said this. Did I say this last time? That it's a developing country. They don't call it third world really, even though like to me, parts of it, I'm like, that looks very third world. But it's developing and growing, and so it's just more, it's called more of a developing country. Down by the seminary, we would have said that it looked kind of like the houses looked like maybe slums. But I know that missionaries are coming and helping build that up and grow the area, and it has been growing since they've been there. So it's been, apparently, it's just like, the roads are a lot better, there's lines in the roads now. You know,
It
there's,
doesn't mean people follow.
they don't follow
Over
it.
there.
You don't have to stay on that side of the road.
It's a suggestion.
Chris, are you gonna have to learn how to drive on the left side of the road?
No, actually, it's on the correct side of the correct side. I'll say that. And it looks a little bit more normal to me coming from California, so it didn't scare me as much. I'm worried about like since when we go to California often, like LA area, I drive it because
Because she has a lead foot.
I know how to drive it.
You're more aggressive.
I know how to drive. We had a foreign exchange student when we took her to California. She goes to Pastor B. She goes, she's a different driver here, isn't she? Yes, you have to be. Okay. I have enough Californians in here. So we will have one vehicle, and we will be both driving there. But we do drive on the right side of the road, yeah. And they don't have any street names,
No.
not really. So I know this was something really hard for me to understand, but there is 0 postal service. You can't write us a letter, we don't get it.
Really?
So there is one P.O. box at the Seminary, Latin American, Caribbean, the regional office that they have in Santo Domingo, that the receptionist, secretary, she goes and gets it once or twice a week, maybe once a week, because that's still a couple hours away. But somebody's really excited, we'll save money on Amazon. Because
You're not gonna get it.
Because if we want Amazon and want something really bad, we will hopefully have a P.O. box, or we're talking about having a P.O. box in Miami, since that's kind of the closest U.S. Place for us. And then you have that P.O. box, you can Amazon Prime it to that P.O. box, but then you have to get a courier to take it over to us, and then you have to pay to get that off. One person said that she really wanted this vacuum really bad, and so she got it, but then she had to pay $60 to get it off because it's heavier, so it's like by weight and everything. So she's like, I just don't tell people to send gifts because it costs me in the long run. But one thing is that they have so many people coming and visiting,
Yep.
and people are so willing to bring extra things for you.
Absolutely.
So if we hear that somebody's coming and I need like a book for the boys, or I need something for my courses, then I would just ask a missioner or somebody who's coming and say, hey, can I ship this to you? you bring it in your suitcase? And they said that they do that all the time.
Yep.
Plus, one of the girls, Erin, amazing, she is in charge of the short-term missions for all of Latin America and Caribbean, and so she travels all over the Caribbean, and she in Latin America, and so she can maybe pick up things from different ports that have mail able to come, postal services there too. So it works out. And one thing we are supposed to have, or I will get to do, is a newsletter every month. And most of that, I think, will be electric, because I don't know how I can mail it out to anybody. When we were there, they said that they will send thank you cards with people back to the U.S. post, with stamps and everything on it. And when somebody's going back to the U.S., then they can just put thank you cards from the people on the island to send out to others there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how developing it is. So.
But will you have email?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we have email.
So you can just email us?
Email.
Yeah, that's the plan, and we're hoping that the churches that we email, they can print it out and like post it for people, or people like.
I will forward it to the congregation email and I will print it out like I
So-
do with ours, yes.
Yeah, so when we, see, Darcy's amazing, we all know that. So
Yes,
when
she is.
we figure out the email or whatever, we're going to be using for our newsletter, we're going to get that out. I don't know if it's you can sign up for it, we sign you up for it, I think it's kind of a mixed. So we will be letting everybody know what that email address or everything is, so if we, people can get on that and we can share our life with all of you.
Good. It'll be interesting for us to hear what you're doing.
I think so.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I bet there's some good
What exactly are you guys going to be doing?
yeah, so let me get to that here. I'll review that again. So, again, this is where we're gonna be, where the pin is. That's Santiago, which is the city we're gonna live in. Here's kind of a Google map picture. So there's Santiago up here. Santo Domingo is the capital city. Santiago is about 1 million people, a little over 1 million. So
Really?
it's about the population of the Treasure Valley.
Wow.
It's the largest non-capital city in the Caribbean. Santo Domingo is about 3.5 million.
So do we know where the dangerous areas are? 'Cause
Haiti.
no, I thought there was problems
Yeah.
in parts of Dominican where they've had,
Well, there's probably,
Well,
just like
problem.
everywhere. I mean, there's gonna be,
yeah,
it's gonna be like any big city.
all right, I
too.
didn't know if there were
There's-
specific areas.
Yeah, there's areas they say you just don't go to. You
Right.
don't go by yourself. Right. There probably, there has been involvement historically with some drug cartels that funnel stuff through there. But that should, we should have zero interaction with that world.
There's a lot more petty theft because they are so poor.
Yeah.
There's a
they're-
lot more petty
sure.
theft. I won't be bringing my engagement ring and wedding ring because
Right.
they're not worth getting jumped for. So, you just aren't flashy. You just
No.
don't go out. They said that the only missionary that has ever experienced any of that was one that was working on his computer going down the street.
Oh,
wow.
You're not on your cell phone when you're walking down the street. You just have to be smart about it. So.
Right. Don't leave anything in your
No.
car.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is basic stuff you would do in any large city, right? And even to an extent Boise. I mean, you wouldn't walk around in parts of downtown Boise in the middle of the night flashing wealth.
Right.
I mean, that's just inviting
Yeah.
So the Global Safety Index that ranks countries, overall, the Dominican Republic is safer than the United States. But kind of the major gauge is violent crimes as opposed to more kind of petty. So there's more of the petty crimes, theft, and a lot of it, what we were told, are crimes of opportunity. Right? So you don't just go walking down the street as a woman with this purse slung over your shoulder. Somebody's gonna ride by on a a moped or something, and just snatch it and be gone before you know it. So it's that kind of stuff that goes on behind it. So there's a picture, a couple pictures of the city again from the airplane. Here's one.
Oh, wow.
So is there a mountain range or?
There is. So it's hard to see in this picture, but the darker green parts right here.
Yeah, I was wondering what
And
the
above.
barrier was between like
Yeah.
Haiti and.
So this is a very, so there's a river that runs part of the way, so that's part of the barrier, and there is some mountains up here in the north that separate the countries. The mountains, this has the tallest mountains in the Caribbean, right on this island, just over 10,000 feet. So it's a pretty good mountain range. We're going to be living right in a valley, and it's the most fertile valley agriculturally on the island. So that's where all the sugar and the tobacco is going to be grown. Those are the main crops. There's others, a lot of rice, plantains, that kind of stuff.
Is this a volcanic island like the Hawaiian Islands?
Yeah,
Or is it-
all of the Caribbean islands basically are.
Oh,
Yeah.
is there any granite there?
I don't know. I don't. You'll have to come and find out. So,
How is the power supply?
power what?
How is
Power.
supply?
So power, from what we were told, that's also part of the developing country. So, I mean, we have, they use the same outlets and everything that the U.S. does. Yeah, so 110, so the same plugs and everything like that. The main power is generated is hydroelectric. So when we were there, we went to a dam that was one of the main power generators. So they have enough power for everything, generally, but the infrastructure isn't good. And so when they get the hurricanes or other storms, power goes down for a week. Just because the lines and this, again, the infrastructure just isn't there. And it's improving as technology improves. That improves. And as economically the country does better, that's part of the economic growth is more stable. Actually things being higher quality.
Didn't they grow during COVID? Because they didn't shut down?
Yeah. Yeah, so COVID time, they didn't, the country didn't really shut down, so their tourism business boomed.
There's nowhere else to go.
So they had a good economic boost for a couple of years. And that's one of the main economic aspects of the island is tourism. So, yeah. So they said get used to frequent power outages, and some people have generators to back up. There's some solar power and that kind of stuff, which would be some of the basics. Again, the city where we're going to be in is it's a big city, and we were told they basically have everything. So when we get there, they'll have a house for us, but it won't be furnished. There's an IKEA in town. We don't even have one of those here. There's an Ashley Furniture. There's a store called Price Mart, which is almost just like Costco. So, I mean, we can get those kind of needs and that sort of stuff. We'll have cell phones and internet, everything like that too. So, a lot of the way that we live probably isn't going to be that drastically different. We're not going to a house with a tin roof and dirt floors.
Pastor, so will you have to buy all your new furniture? Oh,
So yeah, we'll get a moving stipend basically, once we get there. So,
But yes, we have to buy everything new, which puts a hamper on the beach house I would like to get. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit because we can't really furnish 2 houses at once. Unless he told me I have to wait, so. But hopefully, in a bit, you guys can come visit us at one of the beaches. Puerto Plata is where I would like a beach up here. So, yeah, but yes, we have to furnish it. When we get there, we'll be about 2 weeks in a furnished apartment. Since all the missionaries live in the same area, they'll find a house in that area and then they'll have that ready for us, except furnished. I asked one of the ladies if I put it in an IKEA order if she would get my house together, but she said no. So, I don't know. But I mean, it will take us a while to actually fully furnish it, I think, but beds and places to sit is our main thing. And there are like thrift stores too, that come from America, or the States. I think people, like, some of the things ship over there. It was interesting, one of the ladies was like, oh, I only get shoes like from the States or from like Payless Shoe Source, and I was like, we don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
And she goes, then that's probably why it's here. She's like, they don't have them in the States anymore? No. So that's kind of, if things are done over in the States, they come over. So it's different like that. Milk, we will not have like refrigerated milk. They don't have that. Beef is really scarce, so it's a lot of chicken. But I saw one, and fish, so I saw, they didn't really talk about cattle a lot or anything. I guess they don't have as much for grazing. And then I saw a cow there and I was like, oh, that's why, that cow is like malnourished, right? But then my father-in-law, who really knows better than I do, said, that's kind of just the breed of cow that they have. So they're not, when you see a cow, it's not malnourished like I thought it was. But yeah, they're just really a skinnier cow. So they probably import some of the beef and everything that they have there. We had like tri-tip and stuff one night, and so that made it better for me. I love beef. So.
Yes, Joe.
What's the time difference between?
They're on Eastern.
They're on Eastern.
But their time doesn't change.
Yeah, but they don't have daylight savings time. So now they're 3 hours ahead of us currently. And then in the spring, they'll be 2 hours. So, real quick, let's get back a little bit to, Amber had a question again, just to review as well, what we're gonna be doing. So, here's, my job's gonna center around two things. Chris's main job is gonna be a wife and a mom.
And the newsletter.
And the newsletter, and supporting, and doing all kinds of, I think she's gonna be just as busy as I am, just doing. So it's they're kind of getting a 2-for-1 deal, I think. So, my job's going to center around two different things, primarily. So, one aspect is, this is, so you see the name in Spanish, the Centro de Misericordia Seminario Concordia Reformador. That is the Mercy Center, and Concordia Seminary, the Reformer. So there is a seminary here in the Dominican Republic that trains pastors, deaconesses, and church workers. So I will be a professor, part-time professor at the seminary. So currently I believe there's about 5 faculty. The seminary itself is the top 2 floors of this building. The bottom floor is a Lutheran school, basically. So the top 2 floors are the seminary. It's only 6 years old, so it's still fairly new. So myself, and then there's an Argentinian pastor that's moving, and he and his family, they have 3 young children as well. We're going to be the second wave of people, of professors here. So a couple of the people that were involved at the beginning of the seminary have left. So there's some that are still there, some that have left. So we're the second hired. So I don't know what I'm teaching yet. I think there's a lot of room. I just said please no Greek and Hebrew. I can maybe teach Greek to someone in English, but probably not Hebrew right now, and much less in Spanish. Trying to relearn a lot of Spanish as well. I do hard. So I said pretty much anything else, all the practical stuff. You know, how do you do it? You know, the church service stuff. So you have that, the history stuff. automatic, so that's kind of topical glasses. So, yes.
Pastor, last week you said that this was in another town from where you're living.
Yes.
How
So
far
this-
away is it?
It's a, what do you say, 20-minute, 30-minute drive? Maybe? Yeah. So it's a, let's see if we can, yeah, there's somebody's car. Okay. Now let's see the picture. So this is the name of the town, Palmar, Arriba, which means tall palms. So there's palm trees everywhere. Next have avocados that are like this, right? And they make fun of the American and the Mexican avocados, these little teeny ones. And they're better, I think, things like that. So this is the name of the town.
When you were talking about electricity, you can see how it's still developing. Wires, it's kind of a nightmare.
Palmar's, I don't know if you consider it a suburb or an outlying, just a little outlying town. About 1,500 people. So it's a pretty small. I think it's 15,000. Was it 15,000? I think it's 15,000. So it's a little bit of a smaller town. The seminary started out there because that's where they could afford a couple reasons. They could afford properties. They have about 7 acres that they own. They have seminary. They have currently single student housing called Golgotha. That's that building right there. We call it Golgotha because you gotta go there. But they own this whole hillside. That's all, basically all just jungle right now. The idea is to put housing, student housing and stuff up here too. So, but
Married housing.
this, yeah. So, but the town is developing. They said when the seminary started, there were no paved roads in town, and now there are. The houses were mostly had kind of built out of wood, and now they're more cinder block brick. So things are improving, and even just in the last 5 or 6 years, you see that kind of develop. So as the city grows, and it is growing, the city we're going to live in, San Diego, this could become, part of that metropolitan area. Right now, it's still, a little bit out of town. So, I mean, just think the way that you go back 20 years, Caldwell and Nampa weren't necessarily the same town, and now they are, right? And we're almost completely connected to Meridian and Boise. So as the city grows, this is one of the directions it will go towards. So that's why the seminary is here as well, because they can afford the land. And then, and so they built up the school and then built the seminary on top of the building as well. And then there's a church that is here too. So, Chris.
About how many seminarians will you have and the
Yeah.
school and the church
So,
population?
yeah. So right now at the seminary, I think they said there's only 8 students. There were a couple of Haitians that were supposed to start, but when we were there in September, they closed the border. So I don't think they were able, at least at that time, they weren't able to get into the country. So it's still small in that regard. Last year they graduated 12, and they were almost all, I think they were from 8 different countries. So this seminary is going to serve in Latin America now. There's basically 3 seminaries, Lutheran seminaries. There's one in Brazil, and that's the largest Lutheran population in South America is in Brazil. That was started by the LCMS in 1900. The second largest, that one's all in Portuguese. So now, so they kind of do their own, I mean they interact with everybody, but they do their own thing, and they're involved more in Africa, in the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa. So that's where they do, that's more where their connection is, as well as in Portugal.
Do we have an LCMS presence there still?
Yes. Well, so they're an independent sister body in full communion with the LCMS. So when I was in seminary, one of my professors for a year came from the Brazilian seminary, and they did a swap. So one of ours went there, and he came to ours. So, I mean, so there is involvement there, but they're an independent, kind of a fully independent, self-sufficient church body, but we have that interaction.
Which is actually like a goal for LCMS missionaries, is to help the community, the country be self-sufficient, and not just come in and run it or anything, you know, to get the nationals and get the people in there being able to do the work. So it's so much about teaching and preaching and all that, not doing it for them, so.
So that's the seminary chapel and the school meets. Or no, I'm sorry, or the church, local church meets. So, so as I was saying, so there's a presence in Brazil, and then the next largest Lutheran presence is in Argentina. And it's those countries, because that's where there was a larger German heritage. Okay, so Brazil has its own church body as well. They have their seminary as well, and so that one we're kind of partnering with, but they're a little weird at times from our perspective. So anyway, they do. This seminary is going to serve as in connection with the one in Argentina, all of Latin America, so the Spanish-speaking world. This, actually, if this seminary keeps going the way it's going, this will be the kind of the premier seminary for the Spanish-speaking world. So that's it's already outpacing some of the stuff that the Argentinians have been trying to do for 100 years.
Did you say you were gonna be traveling?
Yeah,
to
there'll be some
Argentina
travel
doing some work
involved, so there's gonna be, as a professor here, there'd be continuing education stuff that I'd have to do. So little week-long seminars or whatever. So that probably would be at first, but there'd be the possibility of travel. Again, there's the connection with the Argentinians, so there's a lot that goes back and forth with them. But one of the, actually he's an Argentinian pastor married to an American. She's one of the head deaconesses that works here. He was just in Spain, connecting with the Lutheran Church in Spain. And that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So there'll be some travel involved. What that looks like. Yeah, we'll find out.
Tell the group again what you're going to do between now and when you actually get there.
Yeah, hold on, I'll get there in just 1 second. So let me finish the second part of your question. So this is half my time is this. The other half would be at a church, and I'd be a pastor of the church. Most likely I would be an assistant pastor, or the ideal is you'd have a Dominican head pastor. I'd be an assistant pastor, both helping him, kind of mentoring him in some ways, but also intentionally looking at new at ways to start new ministries and a new congregation. So he could be the main pastor while I try to do more of the outreach kinds of stuff and visitation stuff and look for those opportunities. And then, if we say we have a dozen people on this other part of town, I'd be the one doing the legwork to say, okay, how can I find some space and some things and coordinate it and get these people together so that we can start that. And then I would be, the idea would be I would shift over and do the pastoring at that new place until you can get a Dominican guy who can then be the head pastor there.
Not necessarily Dominican, a seminarian, somebody who graduated
Right,
from
yeah,
seminary.
so there's seminary involvement in all of these things, so there would be a lot of mentorship with the seminarians as well, and just taking them around.
And just a quick question, so when you're doing the pastoral work or the instruction, is it in English or Spanish?
Everything's in Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah, everything's in
What?
Spanish. Yeah,
Do you?
No, only, I mean, other than the Americans, nobody speaks English.
I can understand it more than I can use it. I tried it, I don't mind licking gum and trying it. Lots of others do mind, so, I'll just say whatever. Yeah, I mean, I just practice, I don't mind practicing and getting out there. But I know, like, the head of the seminarian doesn't want to look silly, so he doesn't speak English, but he's pretty proficient in English also, so.
Yeah.
Me,
So,
I don't know.
so currently, the head of the seminary, the guy that when it started, the guy that was the head, he's a pastor, LCMS pastor, who just took a call to St. Louis to be in charge of all the vicarages for St. Louis Seminary. So he left, and the new guy, we didn't know this was going to happen, but when we were there, they did the installation for the new guy. His name's Sergio Fritzler. He used to be the head of the seminary in Argentina. They got kicked out because he was too Lutheran. So that's why I said they're a little weird. So he came to the Dominican and has been involved and helped to get this started. So now he's the head of the seminary here. He's white, red hair, German through and through, but Spanish and
Yeah,
German.
exactly.
Reggie's always lived, where are they from, Chile? Are they from Chile?
So he's from Argentina, his wife's from Uruguay. They spent most of their time in Chile, I
And their
think.
son,
Chilean Lutheran Church.
their son is starting Concordia, Wisconsin, right now.
Yeah.
Never seen snow.
Yeah, it just starts in January.
He's gonna experience this really cold winter.
So, so that's gonna be, I mean, that's basically the job. Half pastor stuff, half seminary stuff. And when we were talking to the head, this is the regional office and the director for all of Latin America is all based out of this town. So that's partly why there's so much movement in and out, is because there's people that aren't involved with the seminary or involved with the local church work, but that are involved with the missionary work in Latin America, and this is over there. So the regional business officer, the guy that does all of the finances and keeps the books and all that kind of stuff is here, or will be here. The coordinators, like Chris was talking about, this woman here, Mackenzie, who coordinates all the short-term missionaries. She's based out of here, but she works out of Latin America. So that's part of what goes on here. So there's a large LCMS presence here. As Chris said, everybody lives kind of in the same neighborhood. So, but yeah, I mean, that's basically my job. And when I was talking to the regional director, his name's Pastor Ted Cray, he really said, he goes, on the church work side of things, and he goes, it's really not that different than what you're doing here. It's a different place and a different language, but it's the same. It's word and sacrament ministry, it's doing church services, it's visiting your shut-ins and sick people, and connecting with your members. And they have some churches that have after-school programs. A couple churches have schools. So he said it's the same stuff. And the seminary is kind of the same stuff as what you would get in the seminaries here. And it's modeled after what the way the Fort Wayne Seminary curriculum is set up. And that's how they have their curriculum. So the main difference in the academic stuff is at the seminary, it's only a bachelor's of theology because they're not fully accredited by the Dominican government Department of Education. The only way to do that is for the entire staff to be Dominican. So they can't award a master's degree, although that doesn't change what they teach or how they teach it. Where that makes a difference is if anyone wants to go on and get a PhD or something, that's where the hiccup lies.
Yeah.
And that's something that they're trying to work in connection with the American seminaries is how can we do maybe another 1 year and get an official master's degree so that can be the stepping stone to a PhD. So they're still working on it. So, Linda asked this question, like, again, what are we gonna be doing in this next month? So, January 22nd is when orientation starts for us in the United States. So that's part of the timing on why, when we're leaving. So, January 22nd, Monday, is when our orientation starts. The first week is online. And since COVID, they do a lot more online stuff. Plus it's, which they should have been probably doing easier. I mean, it's a lot more convenient for people scattered throughout the US, as well as it's cheaper. You don't have to transport people back and forth places. So, orientation starts the 22nd. We have a week-long online stuff, and then the next week is in person in St. Louis at the LCMS headquarters, called the International Center, or the Purple Palace. It used to be painted purple. So, a week-long orientation there, and then like 3 days after that, we have to do a presentation at one of the St. Louis area churches on the mission work that we'd be doing. That's kind of our trial run on doing that kind of stuff. And then we would go to Iowa for 3 or 4 days. There's a missionary center in Iowa, I guess, that supports mission, both international and national missionaries, and try to connect them for funding as well as just network support. So we'll do that. Then at the end of March, I think we have to be back in St. Louis for a week for some more training and that kind of stuff. So what they tell us is from the time we start until we actually deploy, typically is 6 to 9 months. Okay. And that's dependent upon several factors. So one, we have to make sure all of our paperwork is done. So passports, visas. So I'm going to have a different kind of visa than Chris and the boys are. So we have to make sure all of that is all lined up, right? There's not a lot of people have asked me about like shots and that kind of stuff. As far as I know, there's nothing out of the ordinary that we have to have. They want to make sure we're up to date on things like tetanus and that kind of stuff. But it would be the same stuff that you do here. Right? We need to establish doctors here in the U.S. as well, and with that. We could get, they said for the most part, we can get all the medicines that we would probably need there, but it works differently sometimes too. So oftentimes you can just go to a counter and say, give me the medicine, and they'll give it to you. The regulations are different, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the orientation is just trying to learn as much as we can before we get there. And get all the paperwork and make sure we're set. But also, figure out whatever those needs that we have are. So that things like, if there are some medicines that we need, to make sure that we have a stockpile before we go there. But also a plan, establishing a doctor here that would work with us to say, as it's probably, Chris is probably going to have to come back once a year and visit a doctor just to get prescriptions, right, updated and that kind of stuff, which is very common for that kind of thing. So, you got all of that kind of stuff to get ready to go. There's also the training stuff that we would have to do, and then there's also network building. Is what they call it. And they have a whole model and structure of the way they do that. And some of that is raising financial support, and some of that is just prayer support. Yeah, and that's the LCMS is basically already has the funding for all of the international missions. So when we go around and do stuff, people are welcome to support financially, and that's going to be part of what we ask for in a sense. And there's different ways to do it. So we'll have an account set up for us at the LCMS where people can go on the LCMS website and say, I want to give a one-time gift or a monthly donation or whatever it may be. And so there's ways to do that. Sometimes congregations do that. not to put any pressure at all on someone.
I think,
heard that.
so they have the funding for those who are out there, and so it's not as much put on finances, because I think how they used to work is that once you get the money, then you can go,
Right.
but more now, we have the money, but we need to keep going. Just
Right.
like more like that, instead of we're only running by the skin of our teeth.
Right.
Type.
And part of that too, I mean, there's lots of other sources of funding for this, and I had no idea about any of this until a few months ago. I mean, how any of this worked. But, you know, just almost by happenstance, we had a man, if you guys remember Josh Douglas, who came in from the LCS, he talked about endowment funds and that kind of stuff. So a lot of that it's that kind of stuff that the Senate has invested wisely in. And so they have endowments that are set up to help fund where the needs are. So they said there's lots of other areas of funding that come in. So it's not just missionaries spending 6 months begging for money in order to go for a year or two, and then have to come back and beg for money again. So there's lots of other ways of doing that kind of stuff. And apparently it's been working. They've transitioned to this for quite a while now, and it's worked much, much better financially to do this kind of support. So, but that's the kind of stuff over the next 6 months there. It'll be, and we don't know exactly what the schedule's gonna look like, where it's gonna be, what that's gonna look like. But it'll be going around to different churches and giving a presentation. And if you guys were here a couple of years ago, we had a missionary, Pastor Quentin Pundit, who's in Latvia, doing a very similar thing that I'm going to be doing in the Dominican Republic. He's working at a Latvian Lutheran seminary and the churches there, to be serving as a seminary for Europe. Big difference. He gets to teach all English. But in a sense, we're going to have a very similar job, just in different locations. So, and he never, when he was here, he never outright asked for money. He gave PowerPoint presentation and said, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is where things are going to be, and how you can support us if you want. So, so that's kind of how that stuff's going to work over the next 6-ish months. Now, we've been told that because, again, we don't know what this is going to look like, but because there's the connection with the seminary, the timing is going to be, we're going to have a little different timing than someone who's just going out to basically to serve in the church somewhere. So, the way I understood it, maybe I'm wrong, but the way I understood it was, because there's connection with the seminary, I'm going to have more of a set, we're going to have more of a set deployment date, because I think they want us there before the school year starts, even though I probably won't be doing anything at the beginning, but they probably want to do a little installation service and introduce and that kind of stuff. So it'll be sometime in the summer that we'll actually move there, depending upon whatever that date is, all the paperwork that has to get done, and then what that network support building looks like.
You just answered my question.
Okay.
I just had a question just from a lot of things that we do with our work when we travel overseas. So will you be on a work visa, or will you'll be an expat and not paying U.S. taxes?
I will be on a work visa.
Okay.
They will not.
So
So,
how does that work for household taxes?
we don't know yet.
We have to find
So,
out.
That's one of the questions where they say, just what I tell you guys sometimes, that's a great question, just wait.
Yeah.
You'll get there. And so that's the answer I get. So it's super frustrating. Linda, I just did that to you. I'm going to get there, let me answer this one first. Yeah, there's been a lot of that. But that's part of what the orientation too is set up for, is how do we, our home base, and where we're going to have our mail forward is to Chris's parents' house in California. maybe.
Because if we have to pay taxes, we don't want to pay it to California.
No. No.
Or to Oregon
Now,
where his parents are.
Can we stay,
Tax-free expats.
can we have our official address then in Idaho still and have a PO box? I mean, we'd be okay with that.
I think a tax-free state.
Or fix a tax-free state,
Yeah.
right? And so there are people that do that. So how all of that stuff works, we just don't know yet, right? So that's part of the orientation, is let's make sure you get all of this stuff set up. Part of the reason, so when we leave here, we're going to California first. And so we're gonna take, we have a trailer out there now, that's what we're saving. So,
Or even
in storage.
shipping some of it.
Yeah,
We
some of
only
that.
get ship books.
Yeah, we could ship books down there, is basically, but that's what we're keeping from our households. So, that also means, we have some furniture, we have 2 refrigerators, a chest freezer, washer and dryer, a really cool bunk set, a full bunk
Yes.
that we need to sell. And we've been putting a lot of stuff online, but if you all know anyone,
I'm interested in a refrigerator.
yeah,
We have
let us know. So, yeah, we have 2.
We're hoping on Friday and Saturday that we'll be ready enough to be like, okay, the main floor, want it, leave a donation, take it, whatever leaves our house doesn't come back. That's my new rule, just if it's gone, whatever.
So, and then there's some other things, I mean, we have some bookshelves, bookcases and stuff, too, that we just, we can't take that stuff, we can't store it.
Can't you leave the parish furnished for the next person?
Well, that's a really good question to ask the president of our congregation and our head elder, Chuck Schroeder. And that's something we've talked about, but we haven't.
But we also don't want to be like, oh, just leave our junk either. That's not.
Right. Let somebody else deal with it later.
Yeah, that's not.
No.
So,
When are you officially leaving?
For
I'm sorry.
Idaho,
No, when are you,
Yeah.
when are you leaving
Out of your
Gone
home.
Go?
we're hoping to be ready by the 17th, but that's, who knows?
Well,
My
because
mom and my sister and my niece are coming Saturday. And my sister flies out the 16th to fly back, but my mom and my niece are helping us go back, so.
So some of that's going to depend on, do we have everything packed up, ready to go? But we're also, the weather. We want to, because we got we have wahis, which sometimes are pretty bad. And then the way we're going to go to Tehachapi and drop the trailer off.
In California,
In
yeah.
California. So that's we're going to drive down the east side of the Sierras. So, Donner Pass is the big, the major one, right, from Reno to Sacramento.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go farther south, and oftentimes that one is better, but not always.
Jordan Valley, down that way.
Yeah, so you go, from here to Jordan Valley to Winnemucca.
So Jordan Valley can sometimes be ugly.
Yeah.
And I don't know them.
Yeah.
So
we're-
some of that's a little bit on weather.
Yeah, so my sister has a little bit of property on her, where they live, and so we're gonna keep our trailer there. We have our travel trailer there right now, but they'll sell it for us, that trailer when we leave. We looked into storage, but we thought that getting a little trailer would be the best. His parents also have property, but that's in Oregon, and we would rather not deal with mold. So we thought, a drier place would be nice. So they'll keep all of that, our home, they'll keep that while we're gone. And so when we come back, we can drive our home away, wherever we go next. So we'll mainly be in California, but we will be traveling around. And he might do more of the traveling to the different churches because it's hard to take the boys. And Ryan needs to be educated still, so we'll still be doing homeschool.
Yes, Rose.
Sorry.
No.
Can you, I don't know if you have time for this, but I'm a little confused on this funding. The seminary's not paying you, or exactly how that works?
So my call, officially I'm called by the Synod, by the CMS itself. So my pay comes through the Senate. And so I don't get any compensation from the Dominican Republic Church or the seminary.
Actually, all the seminarians go to school for free.
Yeah.
And they get a little bit of a stipend to help them because they vicar in the churches right away. And they go do cold calls? 3 or 4 days a week from 4 to 7. They go to different houses and visit, and they go with the other pastors. And but some of them, I mean, the stipend is really small, but they all get to go for free, so it doesn't bring in money, really. So all of that money and funding is done through donations, all of it is.
So that's, the donations go to the LCMS, right? Whether it's, again, from individuals or congregations or from these other sources of funding. The LCMS basically creates an account for us. And so anything that has our name on it will go to that account. And then they also kind of have a general pot that people
missionaries.
donate to for missionaries. So when it starts to get low or they need something, emergency happens, they have another pot that they can draw from to allocate to something. So, we're almost out. We
Just
are.
one quick one.
Okay.
Do you have to pay rent where you're living, or that's all covered?
That'll be covered, that's part of the stipend,
Okay.
yeah.
So, Jerry, did you have?
I was just curious how much of your library you'll be able to take.
So I can ship up to 500 pounds.
Wow, that's not very much.
We're gonna be having, because I've got, I need my kids' books
Yeah.
and curriculum, so we'll be shipping those too.
Yeah. Yes, last
Will
one.
you have any leisure time at all in Dominican Republic?
Yes, yes. So, and we can talk more next week too, and kind of finish this up as well as a couple other things about for Zion and kind of moving forward. But, yes, so we get to start off with, I get 4 weeks of vacation, official vacation, but there's ups and downs in connection with the seminary. They're just like the schools here. You have during the school year, things are going to be a little busier. During the summer, it's a little scarce. And then you kind of shift gears from seminary stuff to more of the church work stuff. So, so there's that. It's a 6-day work week. So, everybody has Mondays off. So that's it. And then Sunday afternoon, the church is open. So,
If there's not something else coming
if there's
on.
nothing else going on. Yeah. But it's gonna be hard work and a lot of work in that. But we will have some leisure time, which is why Chris wants the beach house. He's just saying we're gonna get out of
You
town.
can get, like, even buying a house in Caldwell is so expensive, but buying a beach house there is not nearly as expensive.
And then we'll have a place for visitors to come.
Yeah.
Be careful what you say.
Oh,
We live in the beach house, you guys can say it's the city.
Airbnb it, it's gonna make me some money too.
So, all right, well, we're out of time. We'll talk a little more next week about, try to answer some more questions. So let's close with prayer. Almighty and everlasting God, we thank you again for this church family and our time together, Christian fellowship, but also that your work and the gospel is able to be spread throughout the world. And it's the same gospel and the same good news and the same church that we get to be a part of at these various places. Continue to bless each of us wherever you lead us and guide us so that we can be your faithful people and share the hope that we have in Christ.